Have you been teaching intonation through finger patterns, but your students still have trouble playing in tune in concert music? Can they get certain things in tune in isolation, but have trouble transferring those skills to the next piece? Well, it could be because of mistakes in their technique. And these mistakes are going to limit your students' potential until you get them solved. In this video, I'm going to share an exercise that I use quite a bit to help teach good habits with the left hand shape so that your students can play in tune where it counts. Most method books introduce the concept of tunneling at some point. Most students just ignore it, and a lot of teachers don't enforce it, but it doesn't really matter if they do or they don't because it's used so infrequently that it doesn't really produce the desired result. If you want something to stick, you have to make it a habit. And when I start adding in some tunneling exercises in my classes, and I start adding that to the curriculum, I do it every single day in class for multiple weeks. And it seems like a lot, but this exercise doesn't really take a lot of time, and we can get a lot of benefit out of it. So how does it work? To start off with, I have my students finger on the D string and bow on the A string. For bass players, I flip it around. They bow on the A string and finger on the D string because their strings are tuned in fourths. So if they did it the other way, they wouldn't be tunneling, right? At first, before they develop proper left hand shape, their little fingers are not going to be rounded enough to clear the upper strings, and their finger will rub up against it. Or in severe cases, it might even rest against the upper string, and it's going to sound like this. I really like this exercise because of the built-in accountability. No one wants to sound like that, and it's obvious to everybody in the room. So students have to do something about it to correct it. They have to get their fingers rounded. They have to play on their fingertips, and they have to have good elbow position, straight wrists, right? You get it. Otherwise, they rub up against the bowed string, and it sounds terrible. There are a few different ways that we can practice this as an exercise with your orchestra class. Here's the way I do it. I just have them finger the 4 main finger patterns in quarter notes, 4 bows per note. And in this example, they're going to finger on the D string and bow on the A string. For our basses, they're going to do the opposite. Here's what it sounds like. You can do variations of this. You can have them tunnel on the G string. Cellos and violas can tunnel on the C string, basses on the E string, violins on the E string. It's oftentimes the lower strings are the biggest issue, because they don't get their elbows around. And unfortunately, you can't do this for the highest string because there's nothing to bow on above the highest string. So I kind of wish there was, because students, they are notorious for playing with bad left-hand shape on the highest string, the E strings for violins and the A string for violas particularly. They tend to twist their wrists instead of tuck the fingers in and adjust the shoulder. But you can still practice it. There just isn't that accountability of the upper string rub like there is in the other strings. So I hope you find this exercise valuable in your classroom, and I hope it helps your students play with round fingers and good left-hand shape. I'll see you in the next video.